Science is leading America in the right direction. Before we get into leadership, let's start with the basics. When you think of the word science, you're probably more inclined to think of the branches of science like biology, physics, chemistry, and earth science. But in a general sense, science is the state of knowing, knowledge as distinguished from misunderstanding or ignorance. And we can't forget that science encompasses dominant applied fields such as engineering, technology, and medicine. The knowledge gained in these fields is undoubtedly moving our country forward. First of all, think about how science already helps you in everyday life. You wake up to your alarm clock, check the weather forecast, take your medicine, drive to school, drink clean water, and talk to your friends via your cell phone. Science allows you to do all these things and more every single day. Scientific knowledge obtained through research and experimentation benefits every American, from medical breakthroughs to breakthroughs in environmental science. For example, in 1921, biochemists discovered insulin, the hormone produced in the pancreas that lowers blood sugar. People with type 1 diabetes produce little or no insulin, so they need to take insulin every day to live. In a 100-year span, scientists have improved upon the original insulin discovery, which was extracted from animal tissues like pigs, by using genetically engineered bacteria to create the hormone. This method can produce larger amounts of insulin and is safer for those 1.84 million Americans with type 1 diabetes. And just recently, America has experienced yet another critical environmental breakthrough: clean water filtration. In 2021, the University of Texas at Austin and Penn State solved a problem that has stumped scientists for decades. The problem deals with desalination, which removes salt and chemicals from water. This process is crucial to the health of our country in order to clean billions of gallons of water for agriculture, energy production, and drinking. While this idea is simple, the process is extremely complex. However, the research team finally discovered how to increase desalination efficiency, meaning they can clean more water using less energy. This means Americans can have more access to clean water and lower water bills. Now, along with advances in medicine, like Gabby will talk about, technology has played a huge role in leading our country in the right direction. Since the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, new tech advancements have made our daily lives easier and production more efficient. Take, for example, the invention of the computer. In the 1820s, Charles Babbage developed the idea of an analytical engine, a programmable computing device able to perform calculations. Although he never completed his analytical engine, he paved the way for countless scientists to improve upon this concept of computers. Now, science has given us personal computers to access the internet, which itself was an unimaginable scientific feat in 1983. And with these devices, Americans can communicate with others, purchase food and clothing, do their jobs, advertise businesses, and see what's happening on the other side of the world, all in a matter of seconds. Furthermore, computer-aided manufacturing, or CAM, reduces waste and energy for enhanced manufacturing and production efficiency. The CAM market is expected to generate a positive compound annual growth rate of 7.8% during the 2021 to 2026 forecast period. Advancing computer tech helps in more ways than one. These important discoveries and inventions don't spawn out of nowhere. We owe them to science. Our engineers, researchers, and scientists are working diligently 24/7 to solve critical problems in our society and in turn promote progress. We will continue observing and experimenting to understand our world and how it's changing. We will continue to gain knowledge and develop new technology to make our daily lives easier, like we are seeing with computers and medicine. A statement from UC Berkeley says it best: "Science is continually refining and expanding our knowledge of the universe, and as it does, it leads to new questions for future investigation. Science will never be finished, and because it is always advancing, it is always leading us forward." Thank you.
Our first affirmative, Brandon Moretti. Negative.
Thank you, Mr. McCowan. I want all of you in this room to think to yourselves, is science leading us in the right direction? Your first instinct is probably to think of all the good science has done for us, and I bet a good portion of you aren't even considering the negative on this resolution. How could I possibly argue that science is leading us in the wrong direction? Because look at all the good science has done. Without it, we would still be in the Stone Age. But I'm not saying science is bad, I'm saying that the future of science could be dangerous. So I'm going to need you all to bear with me here, because we're going to have to dig a little deeper than the surface and look towards what the future holds in the hands of science. There has always been a movement focused on the mistrust of science throughout modern history. But in recent history, this mistrust has begun to grow as we humans continue to dabble in science and technology that is considered unethical. We as humans crave technological advancement because it's what drives our society forward. But when do we cross the line? Is it possible that we can get ahead of ourselves and crave too much advancement and have it backfire? Let's think about genetic engineering. In an article written by CNN in 2019, I read about a Chinese scientist who modified twin babies prior to birth. This experiment was not critically acclaimed, and many deemed it unethical as expected. What proves this to be unethical and that maybe some territories like genetic engineering on humans remain untouched are the other examples of human experimentation in the past. Let's draw on the atrocious human experiments done by none other than Nazi doctors to test the limits of human survival to help German military personnel in certain situations, such as high-altitude testing. Experimentation on twins even occurred, which involved injecting them with various diseases, injecting their eyeballs with dyes to change their color, and even sewing twins together. Although today's experiments aren't as atrocious, it seems as if we're repeating history. This unethical human experimentation has been a problem for a long time now, and scientists are still going through with these procedures. Maybe our curiosity is leading us into dangerous territory. Maybe our natural ambition is pushing our scientists to reach new frontiers that simply are necessary for the progression of the human race. Let's even touch on human cloning as we're on this topic. We're already successfully testing the cloning of organisms and developing human-like AI and robots. This may seem like something you'd only see in a sci-fi movie, so what's there to worry about? But it's becoming a reality. Tesla has revealed their own prototype of a humanoid robot as recent as last year, and according to an article by BBC, Elon Musk even stated that his plans of robot production could be more significant than the vehicle business over time. There's no doubt that this is the direction we're moving in, and it's undeniably dangerous and unethical to the norms of the human race to have the ability to simply clone humans and generate robots that can act on their own as humans. Let's stray away from that topic to one that has been prominent for some time now. Weapons of mass destruction. They've become a necessity for the world's superpowers, but did we need them in the first place? You can thank science for leading us to that point. And although these weapons have become more of a peace contract, the events going on today, and especially the psychotic leaders running it, makes me have no doubt that someday these weapons of mass destruction, which mighty are constantly getting stronger and stronger, will leave a huge scar on the human race. And it will all be traced back to the curiosity of the scientists who developed these weapons, who simply could not draw the line at the capacity of their own ambition, and felt that the advancement was necessary for human progression. Never forget that J. Robert Oppenheimer said, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds," after he led the development of the atomic bomb. He himself, as the scientist, took full responsibility for his scientific ambitions, leading him to create something that could erase mankind. This may be a while ago in history, but this still applies to the ambitions of scientists today, who could easily forget to draw the line and create something that could be detrimental to the human race. That could be the human experimentation, human cloning, or creation of robots that could outlast humans. I hope this opening statement has allowed you to consider that science is leading us in the wrong direction. I'm going to allow my partners to reinforce these ideas and present even more evidence to this argument. But I want everyone to keep in mind the dangers I presented involving science. Our ambitious human minds are leading scientists into dangerous frontiers that should not be tampered with. With things like nuclear weapons and growing technologies such as human cloning, unethical human experimentation, and genetic engineering, there are growing consequences detrimental to society that we will only face whenever it's too late.
As you previously heard from my partner Talia, science is in our everyday lives, whether we realize that or not. The biggest improvement science has and will continue to make in our country is the astonishing medicinal discoveries. Medical discoveries produced by American life science companies have vastly improved the human condition. People can now live longer, with less pain and greater quality of life. We've eradicated some of the world's deadliest diseases, such as polio and smallpox, and turned other deadly diseases into beatable ones. Breast cancer, HIV, AIDS, heart diseases, and lung cancer are no longer a guaranteed death sentence. I am going to prove to you that science has and will continue to advance our society through the medical field by showing you just how much we have completed in the past 20 years. Harvard released a timeline of the biggest medical discoveries in our country. In 2002, researchers identified a pathway linked to cartilage deterioration and bone attrition of rheumatoid arthritis. 2003, researchers pinpoint the source of a life-threatening complication of pregnancy and one of the leading causes of maternal and infant mortality worldwide. 2006, Dana-Farber researchers identify that eating foods rich in saturated fats and trans fatty acids cause elevated blood levels of bad cholesterol and triglycerides. 2008, Dana-Farber scientists achieve a medical first by using a targeted drug to put a patient's metastatic melanoma into remission. 2011, researchers at Joplin identified 2 markers that accurately predict the risk of kidney failure in patients with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. 2013, Roland Barron reveals pathways by which the gene capsaicin K promotes bone respiration and formation, assisting in new potential therapies for osteoporosis. 2014, researchers successfully generate mature human insulin producing pancreatic beta cells, which successfully secrete insulin into mice. 2017, scientists discovered the blood-brain barrier, which opened the potential to creating drugs that can pass this barrier and treat brain disorders such as Alzheimer's. But now, in 2022, only 5 short years later, Duquesne University has successfully developed a drug treatment for Alzheimer's, and it will soon be readily available to the public. I didn't even mention everything from every year that this single timeline provided me with. These were only a few. But this timeline shows that we have successfully used science to save lives and will continue to do so in future years to come. We may live to see a day that every deadly disease is beatable. Medicine isn't our only great advancement science has provided our country with. We also have learned to care for our environment through science. We follow a specific scientific process when we collect data and then infer on the next steps we need to take as a society. Most of us in this room are familiar with the scientific process and know how simple the steps are. Step 1, create a question. Step 2, form a hypothesis. Step 3, make a prediction based on the hypothesis. Step 4, test the prediction. And step 5, use the results to reject or agree with your hypothesis. Americans use this simple process to make groundbreaking discoveries and important decisions to help protect our planet. Even though you wouldn't realize that this is science, it is. As we look back at the advancements our society has made in the past 20 years, it is easy to see that our country has advanced dramatically. Science is in so much more than we think it is. It's a part of our everyday lives. That is why science is leading us in the right direction. Thank you.
It's difficult to argue that science is moving America in the wrong direction. I mean, look around us. Every year, there are newer, faster phones and computers. In a matter of months, scientists develop a vaccine with the ability to stop a global pandemic. We have robots that will perform surgery and new cutting-edge treatments for cancer. But we can't confuse development of these new and exciting products with the advancement of scientific knowledge. Science is not moving America in the right direction because it can't do it alone. The issue lies in the way that it's being funded. Without adequate government funding in research and development, America is not going to move in the right direction. Basic science is defined as research aimed at discovery rather than immediate applications or commercial properties. This basic science is imperative to innovation. These are the fundamental basics like biology, biochemistry, physiology, that are the foundation of a researcher's education. Basic science historically has made the US a world leader in science and technology. In 2020, Julia Phillips, the chair of the National Science Board's Science and Engineering Policy Committee, stated that federal support of basic research drives innovation. She claimed that only the federal government can make a strategic, long-term commitment to creating knowledge that could lead to new or improved technologies, goods, or services. In the past, government funding was the main source of funding for research and development. At that time, basic science research was the priority. Today, the primary source of funding for research and development is not the government, but private entities. The problem is, with a focus on return on investment by these private investors, only about 5% of funding is devoted to basic science, and the remainder to applied research and development, or the application of basic science for the creation of new products and technologies. This would include things like how to treat a disease or what's the most energy efficient car. While these issues are significant to our society, they all trace back to the research done decades before our time. With more funding in basic research, our knowledge will continue to expand and lead to discoveries that will pay off in the long run. After World War II, the US federal government led the way in global scientific competitiveness. Our current public spending is $130 billion on research and development, compared to our private sector spending of $450 billion. This is a complete reversal of our funding in the years following World War II. According to CNN, the US global share of research and development has declined 25%. Our productivity is minimal compared to Asian countries. China contributed to nearly a third of the world's total growth in research and development from 2000 to 2017, while the United States only made up 20%. How can you claim that science is able to lead America in the right direction when our government won't even appropriately fund our efforts towards new discoveries in biology, physics, or chemistry? The New York Times explained that American corporations face a constant pressure to be on the cutting edge of a new product development in the face of intense global competition. Corporate research and development focuses on the very short term. They have less incentive to create knowledge that may or may not be profitable, and even less incentive to share it. Meaning they are putting less funding in research that will not lead them to the newest technology, and any new knowledge that is acquired is quickly patented and protected by those private organizations. In the past 10 years, our research efforts in basic science have dropped to less than half of the productivity in the 10 years prior. Science is not moving America in the right direction, not because our scientists are inferior to scientists in the past or those around the world, but because the priorities behind funding have changed too drastically. In today's world, more value is placed on the use of old knowledge to develop current products instead of the discovery of new knowledge to solve the problems that ours and future generations will face. Thank you.
Science is knowledge. This phrase is one you've all heard at least one or two times today, and a definition of the word science that I firmly believe. With this definition of science bolded in our minds, it's hard to deny the profits that science has helped our country earn. But as we start this last phase of the debate, I would like to introduce you to a new phrase. Science is progress, and progress is what leads America into the right direction. As my partners described earlier, science itself has progressed tremendously over the past century, and even more so over the past 20 years. And as science itself progresses, America progresses with it. Communication has been made easier, research more accessible, and daily life simpler with the help of modern technology. Lives have been saved, biological knowledge has been broadened, and deadly diseases no longer hold a vice grip on the people we love, thanks to medical discoveries. Clean water has become more accessible and less expensive thanks to breakthrough with water filtration systems. Without a doubt, these things have been guiding America to a more advanced and prosperous future. And those are only a fraction of the things that science has done for us. Another enormous step that we've taken with the help of science is improving our environment. After the implementation of the Clean Air Act in 1970, scientists have worked tirelessly to find efficient solutions to our pollution problems. Electric and hydro-powered vehicles, solar and wind-powered electricity, and air filtration systems, just to name a few. And the evidence is very clearly there that these solutions are working. According to data released by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agencies, since 1970, the amount of common pollutions emitted into the air, common pollutants being chemicals like carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and sulfur dioxide, have dropped by 78%. A drop that has occurred while the U.S. economic indicators have remained strong. This change in air quality has reaped incredible benefits. Crop and timber yields have improved significantly in both quantity and quality. The number of air pollutant-related illnesses has decreased significantly, leading to less money being spent on treatment and lower absenteeism among American workers, and millions of pollutant-related deaths have been prevented. But even with evidence that science is leading us forward, Americans still have anxieties about scientific progress. They're untrustworthy of it, or scared of it, and certainly don't believe that it's leading us in the right direction. Some think that we're moving too fast, and that the power we've gained and the endless stream of knowledge we've tapped into will be what destroys us in the end. And common encapsulation of this fear is the fear of AI and other advancing technologies. These fears are understandable, especially considering all the media sources depicting humanity falling to technological overlords. But fears similar to these have been shown to be blown out of proportion. After all, America's feared a similar beast before: machinery. When small, mundane tasks were able to be replicated more efficiently by machines, Americans feared that they would be left jobless. And as we all know today, that's clearly not the case. Take General Motors in the 1950s. 278,000 people were added to 278,000 people were added to its payroll to keep up with the production created by machines. Additional engineers, maintenance workers, and factory hands were all given positions because of the additions of these machineries. And a similar pattern has already begun to appear with modern technologies. Computer programmers, robotic engineers, data scientists, neuroscientists, and mathematicians are all in demand. Even more positions are developing around AI. You could say that it's progressing the job market. This isn't to say that the fear of AI is completely irrational, but right now, AI is not the threat it's been blown out to be. In fact, it's an ally for the creation of jobs. I'd like to leave you all with this thought. If science isn't leading us in the right direction, then certainly we'd all be all right with just ending our scientific ventures. What's the point in investing in it if it's not helping anyone? We wouldn't need that new iPhone or computer. We wouldn't need to make any more progress on our search for cancer cures. We wouldn't need to invent or discover or learn about anything else, because that's all science. And without it, where would we be as a country? Without science, we as a country would be left wandering aimlessly with no progress, no knowledge, and no direction. Science paves the way to a road of progress, and as we continue to let science lead the way, there's only one direction that it can lead us, and that's up. Thank you.
You have now heard from all the affirmatives and my two teammates. And now it's my turn to cement the idea that science is not leading America in the right direction. My opponents have used all their sources to back up their claim. But when I did some digging into their sources, I found some information that they failed to tell you. Information that would hurt their case. In the Pew Research article that the affirmatives use, it gives some stats about science classes in American schools. 16% of scientists from the American Association of Advancements of Science, or the AAAS, rank the American STEM system as average or the best, while 29% of the general public also rank the American STEM education system as average or the best. Thanks to Mrs. McCowan, it is very easy to do the math to find out how many of the surveyed of the group thought that the American STEM education was below average. This would be 84% of the AAAS scientists and 71% of the general public that would have ranked it below average. Along with that, from the same article, 75% of the AAAS scientists say that there is little STEM education in schools. Think about this. How can science lead America if Americans are not getting the proper science education? How can it lead us if we aren't learning about it or getting enough of it? There's no secret that Americans are divided when it comes to science and believing in it. Another Pew research done in 2020 claimed that 6 in 10 of US adults believe that science should take an active role in policy debates. And 4 in 10 believe scientists should just stay on their jobs and stay out of the policy debates. This division boils down to 2 things, or should I say 2 parties, conservatives and liberals. On one side, we have the mistrust of science and wanting to keep it out of national policies. On the other side, we have the support of science and using it to shape national policies. It seems as if the 2 parties are always fighting about what each other thinks is right and wrong. How can science lead us in the right direction if we are constantly fighting about it? Let's say you and your friend have a difference of opinion. Say you want to go to MORP and think that it's a great fundraiser for the prom. Say your friend doesn't want to go to MORP because they don't want to dress up in a costume. You 2 are constantly fighting and bickering about what is right and what is wrong, and if you should go and if you shouldn't go. You both get angry and mad at each other, and you don't end up with a solution. The same thing happens between political parties. They bicker and argue about science and whether it's right or wrong, and the divide grows stronger and stronger between the 2 parties. There's a wedge dividing the 2. Science cannot lead us in the right direction if we can't agree on if it works or not. Science cannot lead us in the right direction if Americans can't compromise, but instead wage war between the party opposite of them. Science is not leading America in the right direction. Science cannot lead America if Americans are not learning about science. How can we use something to lead us if we know little about it or nothing at all? Science cannot lead America because it's driving a wedge between Americans. If we fight about our beliefs, how can we get along to produce an end solution? Science cannot lead us if it creates arguments between the people it is trying to lead. Science cannot lead us in the right direction if Americans cannot agree on what the right direction is. Thank you.